Queen Elizabeth I is sitting at her window in Richmond Palace when she sees it, herself lying motionless in a bed, pale as wax, utterly still. Not a dream, not a vision, she's wide awake, and 3 days later, she's dead. That's not folklore. That's recorded by her lady-in-waiting, Lady Guildford, who documented the Queen's terror in the final days of 1602. Elizabeth refused to go to bed after that. She sat upright in her chambers, propped on cushions for days, as if lying down would fulfill what she'd seen. It didn't matter. She died anyway. She was 69 years old, and whatever she glimpsed in that window had shaken the most powerful woman in the world down to her bones. The Germans gave it a name, Doppelgänger, literally double walker. The idea that somewhere out there, wearing your face, moving through the world in your body, is something that isn't you. Not a twin, not a reflection, something else. And in the folklore of nearly every culture on Earth, Norse, Celtic, Egyptian, Indian, Slavic, seeing your own double is not a curiosity, it's a death omen. Full stop. The moment you lock eyes with your own face staring back at you from somewhere it shouldn't be, the clock starts ticking. But here's the thing, this isn't just ghost story territory. Some of the most rational, credentialed minds in recorded history reported the experience, and the real story, the one nobody tells you, isn't about ghosts at all. Percy Bysshe Shelley, the Romantic poet, saw his double twice before he drowned in the Gulf of Spezia in 1822. The first time, the figure pointed silently toward the sea. He told his wife Mary, yes, that Mary Shelley, the woman who wrote Frankenstein, and she begged him not to sail. He sailed anyway. He was 29 years old when his body washed ashore. Abraham Lincoln famously saw a double reflection of himself in a mirror shortly after his first election in 1860. One face was normal, the other was ghostly pale, almost corpse-like. His wife Mary Todd, already a believer in the supernatural, took it as an omen that he would not survive his second term. He dismissed it. History knows how that ended. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, one of the greatest literary minds in European history, a man of rigorous intellect, wrote about meeting his own double on a road outside Drusenheim. The figure was riding toward him wearing clothes Goethe didn't own yet. 8 years later, Goethe found himself on that same road, wearing exactly those clothes, riding in exactly that direction. Make of that what you will. Now, here's what they don't tell you in the ghost stories. By the 19th century, the doppelganger phenomenon became a serious commercial and institutional obsession, not because scientists wanted to understand it, but because there was money in it, enormous money. The Victorian spiritualism industry, at its peak in the 1880s, was generating what would be equivalent to hundreds of millions of dollars annually in today's terms. Seances, mediums, spirit photography. This was a full-scale economy built on grief, fear, and the desperate human need to believe death wasn't the end. Spirit photographers charged the equivalent of a week's wages per sitting. Mediums who claimed to summon doubles, phantasms of the living they called them, packed theaters and drawing rooms across Britain and America. The Society for Psychical Research, founded in London in 1882 by scholars from Cambridge, documented over 700 cases of people reportedly seeing their own or another's living double. Their Phantasms of the Living, published in 1886, was a 2-volume, 1,400-page investigation that became a bestseller. The institution wasn't investigating to debunk, it was legitimizing, because legitimacy meant subscription fees, donations, and speaking tours. The grief economy was real, and it was ruthless. Meanwhile, the wealthy were spending fortunes on haunted real estate, estates where the previous owner had reportedly seen their double before death commanded higher prices among certain buyers who believed proximity to such events meant proximity to the divine. The line between the supernatural and high-end property speculation was in Victorian England genuinely blurry. And then neuroscience arrived and blew the whole thing open. Modern researchers studying autoscopy, the clinical term for seeing a hallucination of yourself, have identified exactly what's happening in the brain when someone sees their double. It's not demonic, it's not prophetic, it's a disruption in the temporoparietal junction, the region of the brain responsible for integrating sensory information and your sense of where your body is in space. Neurologist Olaf Blanc at EPFL in Switzerland induced the Doppelganger experience in a patient of his in 2006 simply by electrically stimulating that region of her brain. She saw herself sitting behind her, mimicking her movements, reaching toward her. She was terrified. She was also completely conscious on an operating table. Epileptic seizures can trigger it, extreme stress, fever, sleep deprivation, migraine, carbon monoxide poisoning, some antidepressants. What every historical witness to their own double had in common: Elizabeth L's exhaustion and illness, Shelley's reported fevers, Lincoln's documented psychological stress following the election, was a brain under extraordinary strain. Not prophecy, physiology. But here's the uncomfortable part. That explanation doesn't actually close the loop, because autoscopy doesn't explain the timing. It doesn't explain why, in documented cases across centuries, people who see their double tend to die within days or weeks. The neurological event doesn't cause the death, so what does? Here's one theory that modern researchers take seriously. The same conditions that produce the hallucination, the systemic illness, the cardiovascular stress, the extreme neurological disruption, are themselves the death sentence. You're not seeing a prophecy, you're seeing a symptom. Your brain is already in crisis, and the vision is the warning light, not the ghost. You're watching your own nervous system fail in real time and interpreting it as a visit from something outside yourself. The real horror isn't the double, it's that your body knew before you did. This isn't just history. Right now, millions of people are experiencing dissociative episodes, depersonalization, and autoscopic phenomena, and they're receiving no clinical framework for it. They're turning to content creators, wellness influencers, and yes, the modern equivalent of Victorian spiritualists, online psychics, TikTok tarot readers, and subscription-based spiritual guidance platforms generating billions of dollars annually. Same playbook, different century. The grief economy never ended. It just got an algorithm. We want the double to mean something. We want our death to announce itself, to give us the dignity of a warning. That impulse is deeply human, and there has always been someone ready to sell you that comfort. A seance for a week's wages, a spirit photograph to keep, a subscription to someone who promises to decode your signs. The truth is darker and more intimate than any ghost. Your body tells you when it's ending. Most of us just don't speak the language. So here's the question I want to leave you with. If your mind showed you something terrifying, something that felt like a warning, would you trust the science or would you trust the fear? And which one do you think the people profiting from your uncertainty are hoping you choose? If you want more history that refuses to behave, subscribe. New stories every week. I'll see you in the next one.